Hi friends, I'm Nicholas Acciani. Let's go backstage. Today, I'm going to be talking about how to set up a drafting plate when drafting by hand. It's very similar to setting up a drafting plate when you're drafting on the computer, though the computer has things to actually help you make this easier, and the computer kind of does it itself. But when you're drafting by hand, you have to set up your own drafting plate. For this video, you will need an 8.5 by 11 piece of graph paper, a scale rule, a straight edge, and a mechanical pencil. So this is 4x4 graph paper, which means every block is 1/4 inch. So the first thing you're going to do is give yourself a border. You don't actually have to have a border by drafting standards. It kind of gives you a print safe area or a copy safe area, and it just makes it look a little bit cleaner and a little bit neater and finished. So making our border, you notice how I have the hole punches at the top. What I like to do as the standard is 1 full block from the edge. If I'm looking at my 3 hole punch area, I'm not going to go a block from the edge of the paper. I'm going to go 1 block in from the edge of the holes, and that is going to be the start of my border. Now I'm going to make a little mark, 1 full block. This is like a half block here, 1 full block in here, 1 full block in this way, 1 full block in this way. So this is a little bit more than 1/4 inch. I could go in and measure 1/4 inch all the way around, but when I'm using graph paper, it just feels a little cleaner to me. This is a little of my OCD coming into play. I would rather it line up on a line than be in between 2 lines. It doesn't look as nice, and I like things that are pretty. But the standard border is 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch all the way around, except on one side, which is about 3/4 inch to a full inch, and that is the side of your hole punch. So I'm going to make this border now. I'm using a 0.7 inch marker so that you guys can actually see what I'm doing. Normally I would do this in pencil, but it doesn't quite show up here. Notice how even though I am using pen to make the final lines, I'm measuring things out in pencil so I can erase those later. So your border should be double thick. So how I do that is I make the 1 line there, and then I slightly angle my pen to make a 2nd line going all the way across. You don't have to put a lot of pressure in whenever you're drafting anything. So I'm going to do that and speed through that with the other 3 sides right now. Now, one of the dangers by drafting in pen and not in pencil is because if you notice right here in this corner, and actually some of my other corners, my line extends past where it meets the other line. So with this line coming up, when this line comes in and they meet, the line should end right there to create a nice sharp corner and not have one line stick over or the other line stick over. That just looks messy. So now that I have my border in there, the next thing that I need on any drafting plate is a title block. So with the title block, this contains all the information on the drawing. It'll have the show title, it'll have your name as the drafter and or designer, it'll have what plate number it is so it stays organized, it'll have the date because you might need to make revisions, so you always want the thing with the latest date, and it also has the scale of the drawing itself, which is super important because sometimes you will give or get a drawing that doesn't have dimensions written on it, so you need to take your scale rule and measure those dimensions, and you need to know what scale you're measuring in, so it has to be in the title block. That's why all of that is important. And if you have questions, you know who drafted it because it's in the title block, so you can ask the correct people the correct questions. Basically, you want enough cells in the title block to be able to contain the information. All right, so drafting the title block. So I'm going to do the title block that I use for my classes because I don't need a ton of information in there and I can keep it smaller on this smaller piece of paper. So I'm going to measure in 2.5 inches from my right border and make a mark there, right? And then my title block is going to be 1 inch tall. So I'm going to measure 1 inch up. And then from this guy, I am using my blue lines on the graph paper as a guide. So from there, I'm going to make the outer box of the title block, which should also be a double thick line. Make it bold, make it bold. I don't know where that's from. So there is the outside of my title block, right? And I'm erasing these extra lines so I don't have lines extending past the border. Beautiful. So now we're going to do all the lines inside. Basically, for every line of information, I'm going to use another line of blocks. This I'm not actually going to measure it out. I'll tell you the dimensions as I'm doing them. So every block was 1/4 inch, as I said before. So I'm going to go down 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, because I'm going to need 3 lines. And I'm going to go ahead and draw this first line, because that one is going to go all the way across, and this does not have to be a double thick line. So now I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to go 1/2 inch, which is also 2 blocks, right? 1/4, 1/2 is going to come down here, and now I can put in my other rows. 1, 2. Dun da da. This bottom row, I need 2 cells in there. So I'm going to go in 1 inch and 1/4, mark off which line that is, and then I'm going to use my ruler to make the line. Whenever you're drafting by hand, you never want to do a free-handed line. Now I'm going to erase these lines here, here, my guidelines, right? And voila, I have it all set up. So for this, what the information I'm going to tell, this is a class. So this is hand drafting. So the title of the class, this would be the title of the show or the production. Title of the class goes right here, hand drafting. You want to write in all capital letters and as clearly and legibly as possible. So the next line down is going to be what is on the plate, right? The plate title itself. So this, we're going to say are my flat elevations. So I'm going to write that there. Next, I'm going to put my name because you need to know that I did it. Notice how I'm not squishing any of my letters to go down. And here, that N that's a little bigger is kind of a no-no. So do as I say, not as I do. So now I'm going to put scale here, and these are going to be, let's say, 1/4 inch equals 1 foot, 0 inches. I'm going to put the date. Now, what is this block right here? That is going to be your page number or your plate number. Normally, the ground plan is plate 1. This, because it's elevations, I like to put it as plate 2. So this is going to be plate 2 of, and then you'd put however many plates there are. So this is setting up your plate to be able to draft on there. From here, I would start drafting out what those front elevations will be, which is going to be another video coming a little later. But this is a basic drafting plate set up nice and neat, ready to be drafted upon. That's all for today. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time. Bye, friends! These videos are made for educational purposes. Hopefully you learned something or it reinforced something you may already know. Now, this is just one way to do this, and there may be other ways to do what I've explained in this video, and I would love to hear about those ways in the comments. Just remember to be kind as you share your own experiences and expertise on the subject. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, like, and subscribe, and hit that little bell button to be notified of the next video.